Alright, YouTube, you've seen that Facebook has begun actively fact-checking news reports, and it's a meaningless gesture because it involves Snopes, which is no longer particularly reliable. There was a time, a long time ago, they have PolitiFact too, and I'll talk about that also. Snopes is decent when it comes to discrediting religious conspiracy theories. The sounds of hell drilling through in the Siberian tundra sort of hoax that was conducted, and some of these other sort of religious things. As far as politics goes, though, do you not think that independent fact-checkers, supposedly independent, have their own political leanings? Of course they do. So what's the point of using fact-checkers for anything that involves politics? It just doesn't make any sense. Snopes, sometimes, is wrong. PolitiFact is wrong as well. Now, PolitiFact, I said this, I think, about a year ago during the election. PolitiFact doesn't generally lie directly. What they do is they lie by omission. That is, let's say there are two candidates. Let's simplify this a little bit and take out like third-party independent runs and, legislatures and stuff. Let's say there are two people running for the presidency. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. Let's say that they both make 100 potentially checkable statements that are about equal in their overall significance as far as their platform and their campaign goes. Now, let's say that both of these individuals have said 50 things that are true and 50 things that are false. Inarguably, those two individuals are telling that they're both liars half the time, let's face it. But they're also telling the truth half the time. They get a 50-50 shot of anything that they say being factual. Now, let's say PolitiFact likes one of these people more than the other. What are they going to do? They're not going to fact-check all 100 statements. They don't have the time or the inclination. They'll check 40 statements from each of them. And the person they like, most of those 40, will simply be the cherry-picked statements that were true. The person they don't like, they'll cherry-pick through and judge mostly the objectively false statements. The other way that they do it, and they've done this, for instance, with Trump on the decrease in the deficit. His statement was true regarding the fact that the deficit had fallen, but they rated it as a mostly false comment. Why? Because without any context or intonation on Trump's part, they said, yes, but the deficit fell because of Obama-era stuff. Well, that's not what he said. He wasn't saying, oh, I shrunk the deficit, ha-ha. He was saying the deficit fell. It is objectively true. It's not even a biased statement. It may be intoned so as to reflect positively on his entrance into the presidency, but he didn't actually say that. So I don't know why they even bothered fact-checking it in that manner. And that's the way that PolitiFact does business. That is, they're reliable only if they're not cherry-picking the statements that they decide to go through. They did this all throughout the campaign. They ignored dozens and dozens of statements made by Hillary Clinton that were patently false. They did the same for Tim Kaine and other people allied with Hillary Clinton, while fixating on a handful of statements by Trump that were demonstrably false, and by ignoring statements that he had made that were accurate, or by, splitting hairs, something they never did for Hillary Clinton. There is an implied bias in their fact-checking. Now, do I care that Facebook is fact-checking news reports? No, I really don't. It doesn't make any difference. If you're getting your news, if you're getting your view of reality from mainstream and alt media groups posted on Facebook, then you've already got issues with your conception of reality. If you have to have Facebook tell you what is or is not accurate, if you take that claim seriously or even care, you have difficulties. Get past even caring. Facebook is no longer a specifically great platform for many of this anyway. My suggestion is, let's say you post something that is demonstrably true on Facebook, but it's discredited by fact checkers, and anyone who clicks on that is going to see, oh, multiple independent fact checkers have determined that this may not be accurate, or some watered down dystopian bullcrap like that. You know what you should do? Take the article, archive it, and slap it on a blog somewhere. Slap it on another post where it's just there with some tags and share that instead, because they're not fact-checking your blog. Unless you happen to have millions and millions of people looking at it, they're not going to bother. Slap it on a blog, nobody gets the fact check crap warning, and problem solved. See, it's completely ineffective. You can simply put a link or the same text or something like that from a report that's disputed by these crazy ass groups, and you can embed it somewhere else. Isn't that wonderful? Even better. Why don't you get a video from YouTube, which they're never going to start fact-checking that. It'd take too much time out of their day as opposed to reading plain text. Why don't you just look at someone's summary of that article with a link in the description to the same thing? Archived, usually, of course. Of course these fact-checkers are going to have a bias that probably leans towards neoliberalism, because they're partnered with and partially paid for by groups that back neoliberals in political campaigns. But it's not, you think it's going to affect anyone? Yes, I see a story posted, and I see a warning that independent fact-checkers, okayed by Facebook of all sites, say that it's probably not true. That just makes me think it's probably more true, honestly. Because the bias of the fact that they took their time out to discredit the article means that perhaps it contains information they just don't find to be particularly great for business, or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they apply this to like WikiLeaks. There was one image posted. I saw this on Facebook, I saw this on YouTube, I saw this on 4chan, regarding the Irish slave trade. Now apparently, the article was determined by like Snopes and PolitiFact not to be accurate. But it is inarguably, objectively fact that that happened. It's part of the historical record. The fact that people weren't taught it generally in school because they were too busy talking about the slave trade from Africa doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Here you have another lie by omission. The idea is it's like an information hole, and people didn't learn about it from an academic institution. And so now the media feels empowered to pretend that it didn't exist. Because people didn't generally talk about it much, it never happened, or they split hairs and they say, yeah, but they weren't really slaves. They were just indentured servants who were worked to death, often for little or no pay, who got constantly raped. A lot of them died on coffin ships even coming here. They were continuously abused and scammed the entire time. Many of them were just outright killed, and there was no legal recourse. But that's not actually slavery, because it wasn't codified by an amendment or something like that. That's the splitting of hairs that they'll do. But it's not going to be effective. You think anyone's going to take this seriously? The same people that take it seriously will be the same people that already wouldn't take those articles seriously. It's not part of some great battle over what people believe in. It's Facebook's way of covering its ass to deal with European censorship laws. I doubt Mark Zuckerberg, even though he is a lefty, even though he is a Clintonian neoliberal, I doubt he even fucking cares. He probably didn't want to institute this because he knew that it would cause people to complain and then maybe close their Facebook accounts. Or share it in some other way, like slapping it on a blog or just linking it in an archive or something, that would actually block the fact-checking software altogether. That's probably he wanted to avoid it, but then he saw that he was going to have to deal with the legalese of the European Union and the Merkelites who said, you need to crack down on the fake news because otherwise we're going to sue you for, you're not even a European firm, but somehow we're going to drag you through our legal system, make you answer for crimes against, the German people or something. And it always seems to be fucking Merkel and her people doing this. Merkel or the Swedes and sometimes the French. They're always the ones that are responsible for this. I don't know what they're thinking. If I were Zuckerberg, I'd tell him, okay, you don't need to have Facebook in your country. I'm just going to block every range in your country. And then we'll see how your population reacts when it can't log in to talk to all their other European buddies who don't care about this issue. You can go a month without it and then see if people complain. By the way, I'm going to talk to the CEO of Twitter, get them to lock you out too, and YouTube. That's what I would do. I'd say, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a big to-do with the European Union. And pretty soon people like Merkel would shut the fuck up about wanting to censor links on Facebook or something like that. It's just stupid. It's not going to do anything. Oh, multiple independent fact checkers. Who cares? Like they're actually independent. Like there's any guarantee that it was even really checked or that they just didn't slap it with a warning because it happened to come from a site that they don't like. Because they have ties to actual corporate media firms. So naturally, they're not going to label something from a firm that they like as being disputed, they're only going to do that if they just won't check it at all. They'll only do it for other competing sites. Good luck, though. He's not even addressing the fundamental issue here. The early wave alt media sites aren't even the main competitors anymore of the lamestream media, of the corporate media, of the MSNBCs and New York Times and Atlantics of the world. They're not even the main competitor anymore. Yeah, they compete handily. Even more competition now comes from YouTube and a bunch of fucking vlogs and Twitter pages. That's where their main competition comes from. Their main competition has nothing to do with even being a corporate media entity, not even a business. Some person with a webcam, or they're doing a podcast, on some site. They use Spreaker or something like that. That's where their competitors really are. People prefer the interactive video format to the semi-interactive old-style news format, I think, at this point. This is sort of how people get their news on a regular basis now. It's not they're not getting it for, if they want comments, if they want a interactive text only, they'll use Twitter or something like that. I don't know what they're thinking. I think Zuckerberg did this against his will. I think he just didn't want to deal with the European Union's legalistic, bureaucratic nightmare bullshit. And that as soon as the EU begins to crack apart more, when populism takes over and things, he'll repeal it. He'll say, oh yeah, it's too expensive or it's problematic. We received a lot of negative feedback, so we're doing away with the program. No, I don't think it'll be around long term. I think it'll be vastly unpopular. And I think people don't want to have to look at that crap before they open a news story. That's about all. Peace out.